Right, good afternoon, students. My name is Bronwyn Wright. I'm the Regional Academic Coordinator for the Western Cape region. Welcome to your first tutorial class for DSC 1630. Your tutor for this evening is Mr. Jean Domicier. He will also do a little brief introduction with you. Just some important points to take note of. Two very important things that we need from you during the session is for you to complete the attendance register. A link has been pasted in the meeting chat. We also require you to complete the feedback form, which Jean will paste in the beginning, and I will also paste now in the meeting chat, but you can complete it as well at the end, obviously, because then you will be able to give proper feedback. We require you to please at all times keep your video off. You're also required to mute your microphone at all times, unless you are asking a question. Sometimes when the facilitators are presenting, they are not able to see the chat. So simply just unmute your microphone and ask your question and John will respond. Then all study support related queries you will need to send to ctandtut@unisa.ac.za. This is for tutorial support, academic and digital learning support. Any admin related queries like your academic records, study material, all those types of queries are to be sent to capetown@unisa.ac.za. If you are not from the Western Cape region, we will direct it to your region. Now, I have seen that some of you have logged on using a guest account. Please note that you might not have all the functionality if you're using a cell phone. You might not have functionality of Teams. You might not be able to see all the chat. You definitely will not be able to see previous chat. So it is always important for you to log in using your UNISA credentials. And this is quite simple. You don't need to log off your work or personal credentials. You just go to Google incognito mode or into a different a different Internet Explorer web browser like Firefox. And you will go to portal.office.com, Teams, and then log in with your UNISA credentials. This way, you will have the full functionality. You will be able to see everything that we see from our side. You will be able to see past chats, etc., etc. Also, you will have to join the Western Cape Regional Portal site. I will put that link for you in the chat as well. In order for you to access the recordings, all our sessions are recorded, as well as any resources that Jean might post up on the website as well. So I will post those links. Please ensure that you follow them and that you understand the process, that you will need to join the Western Cape region, my module site on my UNISA. You will then go and log in with your UNISA credentials, and you will go to sites and click on Western Cape region. Then you will be able to access all the meeting requests, the resources, and recorded sessions. So I'm not going to eat in too much of your time. I'm going to hand over to Jean, and I welcome you to the session, and I hope you enjoy it. Jean, over to you.
Thanks, Bronwyn. Just hope everybody can hear me. So I'm John. I will take you through this course and assist you. So again, I'll share some of the things that Bronwyn also now spoke about. I'll share in a different presentation to you as well, that you have some of the portal links, some of the other links, because I think if you have been invited on the calendar, I probably have your email address as well. So we can do all of those formalities later on as well. Then I think maybe you would have seen what we are going to do, but and you can quickly take a pic of this, or you can wait till later when I share this as well. So the first thing, we have a WhatsApp group. So there are already guys from semester 1 that is on it. So please take down my number, and during the night, during the day, send me a WhatsApp so that I can add you to the WhatsApp group, because I think it's great that we have the sessions, but it's also great to interact with the rest of the students in assisting you. So I think that's part of a WhatsApp group as well. Is I'll share some notes. It's easier to maybe look at a question that you're struggling with at that moment in time, then we need to wait for a team session in a week or two's time to maybe address some of the problems. So please take down my details and WhatsApp me that we can add you to the group, because I will probably ask you some material as well. Then just to basically look at the plan for the semester, and I think that is also very important. So today we basically going to focus on study unit 2. So that's simple interest, simple discount. So we're going to start slow. I think we just so that we can get things going, make sure everything is correct, that everything is working, and then we'll continue the rest of the semester on the rest of the work. We will cover everything basically, and as always, and I think what is important is I don't mind that when it comes to exam time, if we need to do a session or two extra. I think for me it's more important that you guys get through the semester, that we prepare you right for the exams, than just get your assignments done and things like that. So for me, it's very important that you also understand the work. That's why the first one we'll take slow, and then the rest we'll move a bit quicker as well. Then just another thing, you can please ask questions as we go along. At the moment, I can see the hand being raised, but it can be that at this stage I don't. So unmute, ask, type in the chat box. I'm also following the chat, so don't worry about that. You can ask me something in the chat. And everything is recorded, so if you are being load shedded today, don't worry, this will be available. Luckily, I'm not being load shedded at the moment, so we can just continue, and that will be the process for all the sessions. It will be recorded, it will be made available online later on. You will be able to access it. So for me, it is more let just get into things. So hopefully, can you still see my screen? And you can just give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can see my screen. Okay, so just tell me thumbs up. Can you still see my screen? Okay, cool. Okay, so basically, as you will see, a lot of the things in this presentation is also part of your study guide. It might be that some of the things look a bit different because I'm using a different study guide, or a different year. So maybe there's in certain of the study guides not a star but some other sign. But basically, so how I'm going to approach it is basically we're going to go through the study unit. As you would see, here is basically the slides for study unit 2 that I prepared for you. We'll quickly look at some of the definitions. Like if I look at this, I'll quickly look at the definition, but I'll also have the important formula for you. Also, then we work through some examples, as you will see. So I'm just quickly showing you. We will work through a few of the examples. Then what I will do for each of a chapter as well is, in the end, I will have something like this for you that will give you the important formulas for that chapter. And then if there is other context that I need to add here, I will do that as well. Because again, as you all know, or if you don't know yet, the exam will again be online. So basically, what will be nice in the end, and I'll do that for you guys as well, is nearly to create a final formula sheet that is important for you to have in the exam. So it will be nice just to have that as you start with the exam, that you have something that you can reference. So as we go along, I will create something like that for you, that in the end you will have that. Is there, so with one or two things that I will want to get from you as well before we even start is, after I've added you to the WhatsApp group, the thing that I probably want from you is that somebody just send me the assignments, so that I can see what the assignments, what the questions are, so that if we start talking about assignments later on, I think you already needed to complete one or two assignments as well, so that if there is anything in the meantime that I need to assist you with on the assignments, we can use the WhatsApp group to discuss it. You can ask the rest of the students if there is something that you are struggling with, that somebody else maybe take a pick of their workings, but I will also look at it. But I will need nearly the assignments for that. So basically on chapter 2, there's a few concepts that we need to understand, and I think it's important that we understand this for going forward, because the concepts just become a bit more difficult. So that is also important in your assignments when you look at the things, and also for the exam. So chapter 2 is basically simple interest. In the exam, you will probably get one or two questions on it. What I've seen in my experience, it's mostly a simple discount question that we normally ask, but there can be a simple interest question as well. It's seldom that there are both of them, but I think it's important. The other thing that they also normally ask, and we will get to that, is where they will ask you in a question that you need to calculate the number of days. And then with that number of days that you need to get to an answer. Again, it can be simple interest, it can be compounded interest as well. Then with that number of days, I think it's also important that one needs to understand how the table works. So they will always give you that table in the exam as well as part of the exam pack. But again, we will show one or two of those things as well. So I'm not gonna say what simple interest is. I basically want to get to the definition that we use and the formula that we use. So I think it's important that we just know that your interest amount is calculated, and that is calculated by the principal value times your interest rate times the term, or if it is in years, if it is in months, if it is in quarters, that you will need to add to that. Sorry, I just needed to let the cat out of the room. Okay, so let's go on. So basically, this is one of your simplest formulas that you will have. What is interesting about this, and we will get to one of the examples as well, is how they can ask it in exam, in your assignments, is they can ask you to work out the interest amount, or they can ask you, this was the principal amount that you borrowed. After you added the interest, what is the total? So I think just be very, very careful when you look at the question, what they are asking. What is also normally, and for the guys that were on DSC1630, or some of the other subjects, is unfortunately there is normally both answers. So normally they would give you the interest amount. They would probably give you the principal plus the interest amount as well. So I think it's also always just be very careful when you read the question, that you answer what is asked from you, because unfortunately, as we've seen out of previous papers, they like to nearly give you both options or both answers. Okay, so then one of the others, and I think this is just a way of showing it as well, and I'll show you a few other formulas as well. So to get to that accumulated amount, you basically take the principal value plus the interest. And then if you look at the different formulas, basically, so we have a principal value. I'll just quickly get to, so the principal value is normally then written as the P, so that if you look at study unit 3, 4, and 5, that is normally the present value as well. We will add the interest to that to get to your future value or final value. So what they also do is, from the previous formula that was I is equal to PRT, so here they just did the replacement, so that they just show you how to get to that final formula. So basically they replaced the I with that previous formula, so that you can get to the next section of the P plus the PRT. And then out of maths, and I think that is also important, you just take that out and you are kept with the rest. So this is one of the formulas to show it. What they did with this one is they basically, that original formula, they just divided on both sides with 1 plus. Will do. It is recorded. We will definitely make it available. So what, and that is also the nice thing of the WhatsApp group that we've started, is that I'll share some of the links on the WhatsApp group as well, so that you can go directly to the recording as well. Yeah, so I'm just hoping that the load shedding still stays away from me at the moment. Okay, so basically, if you look at this, so what they've done, and I'll just quickly do this, so that when we get to the more difficult formulas, because you will also see in your assignments, they love asking you questions on and again, in the exam, it's nice. I don't want to say nice because I don't always like these type of questions, but because it's an online exam, what they like to ask is that they give you a formula and they can ask you to work a bit with that formula to say, and I think in assignment 2 or 3, normally those types of questions are asked, that you write it in a different format. So if they ask us in this one to write it in that format, we basically, from maths, I would divide on both sides by 1 plus RT, because I am allowed to do that. 1 plus RT on this side as well. And then because I can do that, now I can see on this side 1 plus RT and 1 plus RT cancels out because it's basically saying it is 1. So here I am sitting with P equal to S over 1 plus RT. And that is how you got to that basically. So out of the basic maths, that is how you would work with the different formulas. And I think this is important when you get to some of the other study units, because when you start putting in a different formula within the same formula and you start to cancel out to get a new formula. So I'll show you when we get to some of that in some of the later study units. I'll definitely show you some easy ways to do that. Okay, so that is basically two of the beginning formulas. It's that one, it's those two. So then we go into timelines, and the reason why I'm showing this just again is I always like to work with timelines. So nearly all of my questions, I would draw myself a timeline to see what I need to do. Yes, most of the cases I will work with a calculator, but I think it's also important just to draw yourself a timeline that you can nearly see where you need to go. And sometimes out of a timeline, you will also be able to start eliminating some of the answers that you get in the assignments or in the exam. So again, just nearly to show that this is the principle that we start off with. So that is the present value. That is the time that you basically, or you borrowing the money or you investing the money. So again, it can work for both. So it is or you're investing or you can borrow the money. And then that is the future value. And again, one can see the formula for that. Okay, so that is basically how the timeline can just assist you, and mostly in some of the other study units, it really, when I work with the compound interest, I like to draw the timeline for myself as well, because it just makes it easier to see where I'm going. And especially then if you have nearly different periods with different interest rates, it's also easier to understand what you need to get to. Okay, so let's do one example. Is there questions at the moment? You can ask. I really don't have an issue with that. Otherwise, we can just continue with what I've prepared. But please, if there's a question at the moment, please ask. Please raise your hand. not a problem at all if you ask. Otherwise, we can just continue. Okay, so quickly looking at exercise 2.1, I think it is in the study guide, so I didn't want to nearly duplicate, but I just wanted to show you what you need to do. So let's quickly look at, so they say calculate the simple interest and the sum accumulated for 5,000 Rand borrowed for 90 days. So luckily with this one, they didn't tell you it's between the 15th of May until the 6th of August or anything like that. They tell you it's 90 days. So when you get that 90 days, you know that your T is 90 over 365. So you can automatically write that down. So how I normally also do this is I would look at my formula and I would say, okay, I need the P, I need the R, and I need the T. So I will need to see if I can get all of that. The T is for 90. Okay, and then they tell us that the amount that you borrowed was 5,000. So we know that the P is 5,000. So at least we know that. Then they tell us the simple interest rate is 15. So we know that that is 15%. Or if we use it in the formula, we can also write it as 0.15. because it is 15 divided by 100. The T, it's the 90 over 365. Okay, so let's see what they ask us. So they ask us, calculate the simple interest and the sum accumulated. So basically, first we need to calculate the interest. And then we need to add that interest to the original value to get the future value, basically. So again, there's two methods, because for one, you can use the first formula. Out of that first formula, it will be 5,000 times the 15% times your T, and you will get the 184. You'll add the 184 to the 5,000 to get that final value. So that is your future value. What you could have also done is basically used the other formula that we've done in slide 8. So that would have given you the basic total amount of 5,184 if you used it. So now the question is, if you also need to show the simple interest, then you will need to say, okay, well, the accumulated amount that I've calculated now was this. I still need to show your interest. So that minus the 5,000 would give me again the interest that is equal to the 184,93. So again, depending on what they want from you, you can use for one formula, you can use for other formula, you can use both formulas. So again, I think that is important here. They ask you to actually do both. So that's why they're showing both, but it could have been that they only ask you to get to the sum accumulated, and then I would use the second method, because then I automatically get to the sum. I don't need to add anything else. If I've asked you just to calculate the simple interest, I then would have used method 1. Both methods work. it's just what you need to get in the end of the day that can give you the difference in answers. And to link this back nearly to the exam, if I've asked you the simple interest, the chances are that they will give you the 5184.93 in your options as well, just to make sure that you actually used the correct answer or the correct formula. The same, if I ask you the sum accumulated, the chances are very good that one of the options will be your interest. I think that is just important, that you need to know exactly what the formula are referring to and what you need to get. Okay, so any questions up until now? Otherwise, we can just continue. I know this is still the easier work, but I think it's important that we just get the principles and the groundwork done. So let's look at the next exercise. So they ask us to work out the present value. So by asking that, they basically tell us that we need to find that value. So yes, this now is the value that I already calculated, but they basically want us to work out that. They give us the 12,000 that you will get after 2 years, or the loan that would be needed. So again, important that now we can look at these two formulas. I've got the S value. So if I used the future value in this formula, I would need to basically put in my values, and then it's like, okay, I would probably not want to use this formula. So I need to get to the present value. So I would use this formula of a present value is your future value divided by nearly your interest and your time component to that. So when I look at this, I would say, okay, I would need to get to my present value. Remember one thing, and I think that is also important, is one is so used to using the calculator for compound interest, because then it's easy to put in present value, future value to work out the interest, or the time lag or anything like that, or you have your future value with your interest and your time to work out present value. For simple interest, you can't use the formulas on your HP or your Sharp or any of that. So it is that you need to use, unfortunately, the formulas. So we've got to work out the present value. So we don't have that. We've got the future value, that is 12,000. As we've seen there, they tell us we've got the interest. So that is basically, let's look at the interest, is 12%. And they tell us it is 2 years. So it could have been that they tell us it is for 23 months. I'm just giving an example. So if it was 23 months, you would have said 23 divided by 24. So just to get, but it's not the full 2 years. So again, depending on what you are looking for, they tell us 2 years. So now it's easy to just say 2 instead of 24 divided by 24. Or no, that would have given you, so sorry, that is actually not, there I made a mistake. So it is not 23 divided by 24, because that will still give you less than 1. So it is 1 year and 11 over 12. So it is 23 over 12. Also, how quickly one makes a mistake with these numbers. And I think that is also important. The more you practice, again, study unit 3, 4, 5, there's a lot of things that you need to jump between monthly, daily, quarterly, biannual, annual. So again, it's nearly, and I'll add that later onto the list of things as well, to say, if you see this word, this is what it means, this is what you need to do, this is how you put it in your calculator when we need to get to the questions, so that you know if it is quarterly, it is 4 times a year. If it's every 6 months, it's twice a year. So those things I will also add to the presentations as we go along. So just to make it easier. Okay, so basically then, out of this, we will be able to get that present value. So just remember again, you can't use the formulas on the calculator because that is only compounded interest. We need to use the simple interest formulas. Okay. So they could have asked you also on this one to say, what was the interest? So again, then it is basically, you take your future value of the 12,000, you subtract your present value of the 9,677.42, and that would have been your interest amount. So again, as you would see with some of the other study units, they can ask you a few things. So they can ask you to work out the interest, they can ask you to work out the present value, they can ask you to work out the future value. They could have given you the present value, the future value, and they could ask you to work out the interest percentage. They can even ask you to work out the time period as well. So I think it's important when you look at the simple interest formulas, how to do that, because most of the compound your calculator will be able to do. So then we get to simple discount. Again, this is just for background. It is out of your study guide. But for the discount, there's another formula, and I think that again is important. So out of the explanation of the definition, the discount formula basically look at, you still have your present value. So again, the P stands for the present value. You have your future value, but you will subtract the discount interest, or the simple discount rate. So out of this, again, you will have been able to work out the value of that simple discount interest. So again, also important when we talk about the discount rate and when we talk about the value of that discount. Again, in the exam, they don't normally give you the percentage or the value because that won't make sense. But I think it's just important that when you need to work with which one, that you understand what to do. So again, let's hope I have included a question. So again, this is nearly, it is out of your study guide, but again, I just want to quickly show you what to look for so that you understand it, and please interrupt me if there's anything that's not clear. So they tell us, and I think again, what is also important nearly is when you do this, I know it's difficult because most of you probably don't even have your study guides and study things in printed format. If you have it, you're one of the lucky ones. So you probably have it on the computer. But what I always like to do is to highlight things for me, or to underline, so that I exactly know what to do. So they tell us it is simple discount. So if you see that already, then you know nearly what your formula is that you're going to work with. They tell us the amount due in 8 months. So again, why I like to draw the line is, now you know that is basically your future value. So they tell yes, your future value, sorry. So they tell us 3,000 in 8 months time. So then you look at all the other things that they tell you. So they tell you there's the discount rate is 15%. They tell you the time. So the time is 8 months. So the 8 months is basically, remember, that is for 8 divided by 12, as they've done there. So again, important that you need to transform that, whatever that they give you, into nearly a yearly number, so that it will become a decimal nearly that you can work with. So I think that is important. If I said again 2 quarters, you need to know how many months that is, that you can put it into years. Again, when we get to study unit 3 and 4, then they give you sometimes a few days, then you need to add some of the months, and then they give you a few days at the end of that term as well, so that you nearly need to say, this is the number of days divided by 365, so that again we can work with a yearly number or decimal that we need to work with. Okay, so we've got the future value, we've got your discount rate, we've got the time. So out of that, we can work out what your discount amount is. So your discount amount then is the 3,000 times that 0.15, the discount rate, times the 8 divided by 12, and you will get the 300 Rand. So then your simple discount is the 300 Rand. They ask us what is the discounted value of a loan. So you basically then need to say, well, what was the present value? So the present value then is the 3,000 minus the 300 to get you to the 2,700. So again, they could have asked the question the other way around, to say your discounted value was 2,700. They tell you the discount rate, they tell you the period, so that you can also work out the future value. Again, different ways of doing it. It's like, so let's look at the next set that basically is similar to this, but ask it a bit differently. So here they say the discounted value is 2,700. In order to determine the equivalent interest rate, or we note that 2,700 is the price now, and that 3,000 will be the price in the future. So here they ask it a bit differently. So what they're asking you here to do is to basically look at the discount and put it back into an interest rate, so that you don't get the discount value, but it is a normal interest rate. So by looking at that, we can work out what the interest will be, and that nearly you will see is the same. So the interest is what they've given us here is the 2,700. So let's first go back to that step. So your interest value would be the 3,000 minus the 2,700. So that is your I value. So we've got that because that is your future value minus your present value. So I is tick, that is 300. The P is tick because that is 2,700, that's your present value. In this question, they don't give us R. So we need to calculate R. And in this question, they tell us 8 months later. So they tell us 8 months later. So we know that 8 months later is 8 divided by 12. We can already put that into a decimal, but they want to just make it easier to look at it. So if we divide by 4, the 8 divided by 4 will give you 2. The 12 divided by 4 will give you 3. So you basically will sit with 2/3 that we know is about 0.66667. So to work out the R, we already now have all the other information. So we have the 3,000, the 300. We divide on both sides by the 2,700. So that's why we do that step. So to get rid of the 2/3, what we do is we multiply on both sides with 3/2. So that's why on this side we have 3/2. We multiply it on this side with 3/2. So basically the 2's will disappear, or you can cancel it out. The 3's will cancel out. So on this side we will be ending up with R. And then you have a 300 times 3 divided by the 2,700 times 2. And that will give us the 0.1667. But if again we want to put into a formula, we need to multiply it by 100 to give us the percentage of 16.67. So again, there's two ways of doing it. They can use your discount information to ask you to work out a simple interest rate. So again, I think this is what's also important, is to understand the differences in simple interest, simple discount, and that you can use the one to get to the other one. Okay, let me just take a breather there, and please, is there any questions on your side? Otherwise, I can continue, but everybody happy until this point? Give me a thumbs up if you're happy that we can continue. So I see there's a few guys that joined a bit late. This is recorded, so no worry about that. So you will get access to it. The other thing is, I'll just quickly go back to slide 2 or 3, where my details are. So we have a WhatsApp group. So you can send me a WhatsApp later when we're done here, when you have electricity, when we all have data or Wi-Fi, and I will add you to the group. But you can also take a pic and have my email addresses as well. But I will share this later on. I think it's probably already uploaded onto the Teams portal as well. I uploaded it earlier today. But again, please send me a WhatsApp later on, and I'll add you to to the group. And what I'll also do is the previous the presentation that I uploaded was purely the presentation, so none of the scribblings. So again, I'll upload this just as another document that you basically have both, and I'll share both on the WhatsApp group as well. And then when I add you to the WhatsApp group, I'll also just ask one or two people just to send me some of the information that you have on my UNISA, like some of the study, the assignments. I've got the big study guides. I don't need that, but some of the assignments, and if there was previous papers and things like that, that you can just share that as well. So let's look at the counting days one, and I haven't now included the table, but I'll add that to the slides as well. So you will get that table on in the exam as well, where it says 1 Jan is number 1, and up until 31 December it is 365 days. So I think what is important here is to look at the things that they say when you are counting days, because the I don't want to say the unfortunate, but if you are out with 1 day, the chances are that once again, if you set for this one 175 days, that one of your answers will be that. So if you only need to give the number of days in the example, what they probably would have done is to give you 175, 176, 177 as options. So dependent on where you don't add the day, it can be that you are missing one of the days. And that is also critical when you look at some of the next study units where and I think even towards study unit 6 and 7, where it is really important to look at the days and the number of days, and 1 day difference can make that you get a different answer. So I think if we even get to some of the calculations towards the end, where you need to look at certain things, by being off 1 day can give you a 0.01 difference in a percentage that can give you a different answer. So let's quickly look at how they, and again, a lot of it is in the wording. So determine the number of days between 19 March and 11 September of the same year. Okay, so let's quickly, so they tell us list the months and relevant number of days in each month, and then determine the total. So the total is just adding all of that together, but let's look at between 19 March. So that tells me that I'm starting on the 19th of March. So you need to include that 19th of March as one of your days. Up until, and when they say between 19th of March and 11 September, so there, if you look at the things, you will not include 11th of September. So also check when you do this, what do they say? So they can say between, they can say up till and including, they can say from. So again, important to look at the word that is nearly linked to that date. So then if you look at that table, you could have said, okay, let's look at the table and calculate it. Here they wanted us to show how many days in March will be left. So basically including the 19th of March, so it would have been 51 minus 18, because we would have said from the 19th, so that would have been 13 days. April, May, June, July, August will just be as is on the calendar, and then we go just up until the 10th of September, so that is 10 days, and then if you add it up, it will give you the 176. So let's see if there is another question like that. So determine the number of days from 12 October to 15 May for the following year. So very similar from, so it does include the 12th of October to the 15th of May. So then it excludes, because we don't go till the end of the 15th. It's basically the start of the 15th, which is the end of the 14th. And I think that if you look at this, it's nearly, when we listen to some of the lockdown rules and things like that, how confusing some of those things were when they said midnight of the 13th of whatever, because is it now the 13th? Is it the 14th? Is it the 12th? So I think this is important also, is nearly to, when they say to the 15th, you don't include the 15th, because midnight on that evening, it turns into the 15th. So actually it is up until you include the 14th day of May. So I think that is very important, just on the terminology and going forward in some of the other study units. So I think what we can also, what would be interesting is if you check on the tables nearly, to see if you said on the table what the 14th or the 15th of May, check those days. If you then subtract the number, what the 20th of October is, and what you get. Also, what is important is, here we're going from, if you use that table, here we're going from October till December, and then from December till May. So it's nearly the other way around when we looked at, let me just get to this one, where it was in the same year. Here it would have been the other way around. So here we would have just looked at the table and said, whatever that date is, we'll subtract it from the other one. Here we are going over to the next year, so just important how you use the table as well. Okay, so then going from that simple interest, simple discount, counting the days, then nearly the most difficult it can get in this section is that counting of days become part of that interest calculation, or that future value or present value calculation. So I think that is the important one here. Let's quickly look at what they are asking and what they are giving us, and I'll just again highlight some of the things. So let's quickly check. So suppose an investor wishes to purchase a treasury bill with a par value that is face value of, what's that, 1 million. Okay, so we're talking about 1 million maturing on the 2nd of July. So that is basically going to be a future value, because that value, that amount is going to mature on that date. So that is a future value. So that's why it will be under the S. At a discount rate of 16.55% per annum. So here we need to use the discount formula. So the discount formula was the 1 minus the discount rate times T. So we've got the 16.55, that if you put it in a decimal format is just the 16.55 divided by 100. And let's see, with a settlement date of 13 May. So basically we need to see in the same year. Okay, so we need to see what's the difference between the number of days from 13 May to July. Sorry. So from 13 May to 2 July. So then if you use the tables, you would have just gotten, or the table of counting the number of days. The 2nd of July would be the 183. The 13th of May would have been the 133. So if you subtract the two, you will get to the 50 days. Let's quickly see if we do it the other way around. So if we said from the 13th of May, May has 31 days, if I'm correct. So I would have said 51. So let's see if we looked at this information when it was 31 days, you would have said, including with the 19th, you would have then basically said 31 minus 18. So for this one, we would say 31 minus, I would have said 12. So that would have given me 19 days. I just want to see if I'm actually going to get to the same answer. I haven't tried this now. So let's hope I do get to the same answer. So that is May. We've got June as 30 days. And then up until the 2nd of July. So we don't count in the 2nd. We only go up until the 1st. So that is 1 day in July. And if you add that together, you would have gotten to the 50 as well. So depending on what way you want to do it, what you're comfortable with, you can use both methods. So or the table or your own calculation. The table will be in the exam. So it's not that you will get it. It is online or exam in any case. So you can have it on hand as well if I don't even give it to you. So that is not a problem. So the time was the 50 divided by the 365. So then if we calculate the present value, it would have given you the 977,328. So again, what is the question that they ask us? So if I said work out the interest, you would just subtract the two. If they ask us to work out the present value, that would have been your answer as well. So again, depending on what they are after, there is a few things that you can nearly be the answer. So all the questions as well. So they could have asked you what was the number of days. So what they can also do, like we've seen earlier in the presentation, is so now you actually have that discount value. So they can also ask you now to work back the interest rate. So the simple interest rate they can ask you again to work out. So if we then follow the same principle that we did in the first example a bit early in one of the slides, so we need to get to the R. We have a I because that is what we have calculated there. We have a P, that is what we have calculated there. And we have the time period because that is what we have calculated there. So just to put it in the year form to get a new decimal value. So we have that. So then by using that formula, we can get to the percentage. So I think this is one of the formulas that I would just add to that last slide for you so that you have that as well. I think that would help you in that instance as well. So then you have the decimal number. If you need to then put it in a percentage, you just multiply. You can see then if you want to use, you could have used just the discount rate as well, and you are supposed to get to the same answer. So this again, I will also add to that last slide as one of the other formulas, that you nearly have all the formulas, so that again, when it comes to the exam, you have everything in one, that you know where to look for. Okay, questions on this? Otherwise, we can continue. So let's quickly, any questions? Otherwise, give me a thumbs up and we can just continue with the next one, or try to finish this unit. Okay, cool. Happiness. Okay, let's continue to the next one, and there's not a lot of slides left, but there are some other examples also. So I don't think we need to spend too much time on the time value of money, because we nearly covered it already. So it is basically looking at to get to that future value. So it is looking at nearly that formula again of what's your principal, or your principal value, your present value. Sorry, if you add the interest component, what will your future value be? So let's look at another example. I think that is also in your book, but again, I just want to show for me again how I would have done this, so that you can just have an idea and make it easier when you look at it. So again, I like to highlight, so I want to say Jack borrows a sum of money from a bank now, and in terms of the agreement, he must pay back 1,000 rand 9 months from today. So he's borrowing it now. That is supposed to be a straight line. Sorry, 9 months from now, he must pay back 1,000. So basically, we need to understand what is the present value. That is what we need to get out of this. So let's see, what do they give us? They give us the 12% simple. So let's just read the whole thing. Simple interest, so it's not a discount, it's simple interest. So it is 12%. So they told us 9 months. So they don't need to repeat it here again, but yeah, they did say it again, but they don't need to repeat it again. They did say it there 9 months. So we need to basically use the term as 9 divided by 12. Okay, so we need to get to the present value. So let me quickly see out of this, what would I have used? I would have used, sorry, let's quickly do it the other way around. I would have used that. So so that would have been my formula that I would have used. So I know the S is 1,000. The 1 is the 1, plus the interest rate, that is the 12%, times the time period, which is 9 divided by 12. So if I work that out, I would get the 917 rand and 43 cents. So now again, very interesting. So that was the P0. So what they can ask, and this is what they are showing in this part now, is so if you have taken out that now period, so this 917 rand and 43 cents, what if you only paid it back in 12 months time and not 9 months time? So basically then you can say, well, this is my present value. Instead of using the 9 out of 12 because that was the 9 months, we need to use the full year. So then, but then remember, you're working out, you've got the present value, you need to work out the future value. So you've got the present value and you need to work out the future value. So then again, I would go to my formula page. I would need to work out the S, the future value. So let's just look at what is in that formula. And we'll make it a bit smaller, that we can just slot it in here. So if I want to know in the 12 months, what will be that amount? So it is the present value of the 917 that we've calculated. It will be for that 12% as there, and it will then be for the whole 12 months. So basically added a 3 extra months, and that total then will be 127. So basically at the end of a year, you would have paid 120 or 1,028 rand instead of 1,000 that would have been over the 9-month period. Again, from that now you can say, okay, what was the value? What's the difference between the 9 months and the 12 months? What's the interest between the present value of the 917 rand and the 9-month value of 1,000? What was the extra 3 months of interest? So again, there's a few things that can come out of this as different questions. I think the question, the exercise 2.6, and I think this one, the answers is in the book as well, but I think this one again just shows the difference between the different periods. So if I need to pay something back now, if I need to pay it back in a few months, or if I pay it back later on. So again, I'll just look at this one. You can look at the other questions as well around this. And if there is something that you're struggling with, you can always we can chat about that on the WhatsApp group, or you can email me. But okay, let's quickly just look at this one. Then I think we still have time that I can go through 2 other examples as well. So Melanie owes 500 due in 8 months' time. For each of the following cases, what single payment will repay a debt if money is worth 15% and it is done at a simple interest amount? Okay, so I think important, if you look at, so we'll first use that timeline. So money is available or owes, it is now for 500, and that is due in the 8 months time. So we know what the future value is. The future value is 500. we know what the interest rate is, so your R is 15%, and we know what T is, so the T is the 8 divided by 12. So we need to get to a present value. So again, if I look at present value, I would first go to my formula page. I would say, okay, no, not. Where's my present value? That is the formula that I would need to use. So if that is my formula, I know what the future value is. That is the 500. I know what that is. It is the 15% times the time period. So I can work it out. So that's why I nearly like this, where you have your formula page and it's like you look at your question, and out of that question, you nearly already can identify which formula you're going to use. So that's why, again, for the guys that have joined late, I will for each chapter give you what I've done here, and that's why I said I will add some of the other ones, so that you just have all the formulas for that chapter with you. So by the end of going through all the study guides, we can basically put one page together with all the formulas that you need to use. And then it's also nearly easier to understand where it fits into the module, so that, because I think they do give you a formula page, but it is like a formula page and everything on it. So this also nearly identifies it from which study unit you are working to get to that formulas. Okay, so let's quickly look at this is two examples, but it's from a same question. I will also, this is part of the things that you will get to be, that I'm sharing with you, so don't worry that you can work it out on your own time as well. So basically, they tell us an amount of 4,300, and why it's always these decimals. It's probably because we want to end off with a nice rounded number. Was borrowed on 5th May at a simple interest rate of 15% per year. Determine the value of the loan on 16th of August of the same year. Okay, so again, we could have done it two different ways. You can use the table. On that table, the 16th of August will be, I think, 228, but you're not looking at the 16th of August. You probably want to use the 15th of August. The 5th of May would give you also a number. So that number would have been 103. You can also do it the other way around, to say, well, there is, again, I think 31 days in May. So let's say 31 minus the 4 would have given us 27. The reason why I say 4 is because I include the 5th of May, because that is the day that it was borrowed on. And then June, July would have been 30 and 31 days. So let's quickly check if I actually get to the same 30 and 31. And then on the 16th, so remember at midnight it turns the 16th, so it is 15. So if we add all of that together, that would have been 6, that would have been 13. So that one taken over, that is 3, it's 9, it's 103. Okay, thank goodness it gives me the same answer. There you have 103. So the time that we are working with is 103 divided by the 365. We need to get to the future value. So let me, out of that one, I want to copy that again. So we want to get to the future value. So then it is future value is basically the present value, that is the 4317. In the brackets, we have a 1. We know what the interest rate is, that is 15%. And the T is basically the 103 divided by 365. And then we will get an amount of 4,500. So now what they could have again asked you to do is to say, okay, what was my interest? So the amount of interest that you received, then it is basically just the 4,500 minus that. So again, there is two ways of doing it. It is the one that I just said now, the 4,500 minus the other one to get it. Or you could have used the formula of the interest is equal to P times R times T, and you will get the same amount. So again, I think it is quite nice that it's nearly there is a way to check your answer as well if you want to do that. Okay, and then the last one for today is, so let's look at this one. As you can see, always like to do the timeline, but 15 months from now, okay, so already, so here is now, 15 months from now, Jenny has to pay Jonas 10,000. Let me just take that out, that we can see, so it's 10,000. It is the 15. So basically, we know in 15 months' time, it is 10,000. She decides to pay him back earlier. Okay, a simple interest rate of 13% per year is applicable. Determine the amount that Jenny will have to pay Jonas 7 months from now. Okay, so how we do this is to say, okay, 7 months from now, what is that amount that Jenny needs to pay? So we don't know the present value, so we can't use the present value. We know the future value. So the future value is 10,000. So we know the future value is 10,000. We want to get to the present value. What we also know is, okay, so let me again, so I rather go straight to that formula to use that. So I know that S is the 1,000 or 10,000, so I've got that. That's sorted. The one we're not worried about, the interest rate we've got, it is 13%. We need to work out that T. Well, we have it, but it's nearly discussed. So they tell us 15 months from now, it's 10,000. So we need to get how many months is from that 15 months till that 7 months. And that is 8 months because that is just 15 minus 7. So that is basically your time period that you will use because you want to work out the P that is sitting here. So you need to go back 8 months basically. And then you have the 8 months, you multiply it by the 13%. If you then say 10,000 divided by that, you will get the P of 9,202 rand and 45 cents. I think what will be interesting to see, and I will do that in the next day or two, is if you actually went back the whole way to get to that present value and then nearly worked 7 months ahead to work out the future value if you will get the same answer. So I will just check that and give some feedback later on email and in WhatsApp, because my assumption is that you must get to the same answer. So if you then go back straight to the now period, you will use for 15 months to get to that P at, so let's call it nearly P1 at this stage. And then I can probably go forward again with a 7-month period. So it will be interesting to see if one can do that, because sometimes, again, it takes longer, but if it makes more sense to you to do it a different way, also happy if you get to the same answer. So I'll just check that for you. But that basically is the end of study unit 2. And we're just in time as well. So, but we'll up the speed for the next study unit so that we can just get through all of the work in time by the end of the time that you need to write, and get 1 or 2 sessions in for exam prep as well. Any feedback? Are you guys happy with this chapter? We'll start with the more difficult chapters in the next week or so. But yeah, I think I just wanted to start off that we just get the basics in, and then from next week, compound interest, and then it will just become a bit more difficult as we go along. So let me just again go back to this one slide with my contact details so that you can just that I can add you to the WhatsApp group, that we can start communicating. Questions, guys? Happy. You can give me thumbs up if you're happy. Questions, you can unmute and ask. Yeah, we've got another 1 or 2 minutes, and then I'm gonna stop the recording as well. So please, I don't mind if you unmute. It's always nice to hear voice as well. But if there's no questions or nothing, we'll end the session. Okay, cool. Okay, guys. So that's the end of our first session. Finally, we started. We'll be back. I think it is next week. So if I look at the schedule, it is next week. Hopefully, load shedding stays away from my side, that I can still do this next week. So, but also if there is load shedding times that I need to present, we'll communicate that with you. Maybe there's other ways of doing it. Maybe I can do something through my phone or something like that. We'll see how we can manage. So thank you for the session. Thank you that you joined, and then we'll chat again next time, and definitely we'll chat on the WhatsApp. Cheers, guys. I'm gonna stop the recording now as well if I can. No, I can't, so I'll just ask Bronwyn, and then from next week I'll probably also log in under my UNISA credentials so that I can run it a bit from my side as well. Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. Have a great evening. I hope your power comes back on, and see you next week. Cheers, everyone.